Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday night. It's Wes, Andy, and Hank here on the Fandom Power Podcast. Welcome back to episode 10 of season 2 of the Fan Batch.
We're over the halfway mark.
We are over the halfway mark, and it's this is it. This is our last. Dare I say, this is our last week where we can actually breathe, because next week. The floodgate opens as we are double hatting with season 3 of The Mandalorian. So that's going to be an interesting time. However, we still got days to worry about that. So I'm not going to worry about that too much.
Plenty of time.
Don't forget our new series, Random Fandom, on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern. We got a special treat this week. We are talking with independent filmmaker Kalani Hubbard. That's
cool,
going to be
very cool
conversation. Still going to take your live comments and your call-ins as well. Don't forget, we are a call-in show now. Not this one, but Tuesday nights we are.
Yeah.
I formatted things a little bit different this week. I'm going to get right to it here. Let me.
Oh, there's Gonky.
Yeah. Before we get too far into it, though, once again, it's time that we. I believe it is. It's time for another bad Star Wars jokes. No submission this week. This one is straight off the internet, like they all are. Guys, what is every stormtrooper's favorite store?
Whatever that spaceport ends up being called.
I kind of want to write it down so I can show you that I know after you say it. I feel like it might be a chain store that's not Walmart and not in Canada.
It's not the Hudson Bay Company.
No, hit me.
It's whatever's next to the Target.
Oh, there you go.
Whatever's next to the Target.
Like a stormtrooper, I was all around it.
Exactly. Episode 210. It's Retrieval. We go back to our or stay with our mission of the week, although apparently this is an extended mission. It's been 2 days according to the timeline as they reveal through some of the dialogue. What did we think about Retrieval, guys?
I kind of thought it came quicker than I thought it would.
Yeah.
But we got resolution to unanswered questions from last episode.
We did.
I'm kind of glad I was wrong about the ship thing. I do like the ship.
Myself as well.
They're losing me though.
Are they?
Really?
Yeah, I'm bored as hell. I didn't realize it before. This episode did teach me one thing that I didn't really realize.
What's that?
Echo is my favorite character, and I don't give a damn about any of the other characters.
Really? So the absence of Echo, you're really feeling that?
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's the idea.
Yeah.
Actually, I was like, wow, I don't care. I should, but I don't. What's happening with Echo?
There was something that happened this week that triggered me to something that you had said a couple of weeks ago, Hank, that it's almost like the Bad Batch is rocking around the galaxy, and whether it's by design or by chance, it's almost like they're building a little smaller team around Omega.
Right.
And I've really felt that really resonated with me this week. And that's exactly how I felt by the time I got to the end of this episode, that, we've just established yet another relationship. Yeah. And I do want to talk about that a little bit more in depth, but I want to save that sort of to the end.
All right.
Yeah. But you guys always make me love it. So make me love it.
I was just thrilled to get Gonky back.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So absolutely.
Been absent for so long. And then for him to just, hey, there he is.
The fact that Wrecker literally goes over, picks him up, gives him a bear hug and a giant, like, tells you that that droid has worth.
Yeah. He's their R2.
Yeah. All of the, I said in the private chat this week, I said, we need to come up with a list, an actual list, and we'll do screenshots. It might actually make for a nice little video, is all of the uses for a power droid in Star Wars.
Just keep climbing.
Yeah. Apparently, support, emotional support droid is also on the list now.
Nice.
Along with homing beacon. That's 2 this week.
Well, he's also been a tool tray, workout equipment, punch clock,
cooking surface,
cooking service,
tea service, table,
footrest.
Yeah, he's been all of those things. So, that's cool. There's way more depth for the power droid than I think anybody ever thought that they would get.
He might be the most well-rounded character in the show.
Really, eh? All right, you guys ready to get down to it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, let's do this. Let me just switch this up a little bit here. Again, keeping with things a little bit different, I thought I'd go back. Now we've done this in the past where I've put this stuff on screen. I feel like I don't know why we got away from doing this. I quite like it.
Yeah.
This episode, it's episode 10. It is called Retrieval. It aired Wednesday, February 22nd in the year 2023. This one is written by Moises Zamora. Now, Moises is a Mexican-American screenwriter. He is the creator and writer on Selena, the series, all 18 episodes. As well as a writer for the series Star, for which he's written 18 episodes. This is his only Star Wars credit.
Well, you got to get in somewhere.
Yeah. This one directed again by Stuart Lee. We have an advertised runtime this week of 29 minutes, or an actual runtime of 25 minutes and 39 seconds without titles or credits. And our episode synopsis this week, it reads, attempting to recover a lost asset, the batch must learn to trust a thief. All right.
The if.
The if is right.
You spelled it wrong.
Did I say that? Recover a lost asset, the batch must learn to trust.
Yep.
Uh-oh. Oh,
close
no.
We'll take that out in post.
They're all there.
They're all there.
You all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Of course we do.
Well, it's hard for them to like call somebody else a thief after they just raided somebody else's mine last episode.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The
moral ambiguity.
Yep.
Thought I would have picked that up, but no, apparently I didn't. Okay. The episode opens with a long shot of the abandoned spaceport from the previous episode. We cut to a different lower angle shot where the giant mesa in the background looms over the town. And to me, I got real like Uluru vibes off of that. Uluru, that is the Aboriginal name for what we would have grown up knowing as Ayers Rock in Australia.
Yeah.
At the base,
Counters vibes.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. At the base of the communications array they used to contact Sid, Hunter, Tech, and Wrecker work on repairing an old junker of a speeder, while Omega sits off to the side, poring over Tech's scanner. Wrecker lets out a groan as he leans back, exclaiming how he's bored, hot, and starving. It's three faces of Wrecker. It's Wrecker's three emotions: bored, hot, and starving. Hunter reminds him that he told him to preserve his rations. And looking sheepishly at the ground, Wrecker sighs as he says, "Well, I got hungry." While using an improvised hammer, Wrecker bangs on a part of the speeder, and that part immediately falls off the bike. Frustrated, Wrecker, he flops back onto his butt as he protests, "We're wasting our time," and he calls the speeder a heap of junk.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. And Tech admits that, yes, while it is a piece of junk, with a few repairs, it will be a slightly operational heap of junk. Adding that with the power cells have just enough in them to get them to the town on the other half of the hemisphere. At the word power, Omega jumps up from her seat, exclaiming they forgot about Gonki, who's still on the Havoc Marauder. Tech says that's because the thief disabled the transponder. Because the thief disabled the transponder, they will not be able to locate him. But Tech missed her meaning as Omega says, not the ship. I mean, we can track Gonki. With an air of surprise in his voice, Tech cocks his head towards Omega as he remarks, "Oh, ingenious idea." Then he suggests that Omega try tracing his binary reference code. Wrecker tells her not to get her hopes up, but undeterred, she walks over to the comm tower and she plugs in the scanner. All right, the speeder This one actually was quite surprised at this. As the resident vehicle ship nerd, I'm like, this looks familiar, and I started like, where have I seen this before? And yeah, we've seen this one before. I'm surprised. This is a reuse of the animation model from Star Wars Resistance. Specifically, it's the pirate speeder from episode 8, Sinara's score. In that episode, the A Squadron is sent on an escort mission, which leaves the Colossus vulnerable to pirate attack. And of course, Sinara is she's working as a double agent. She is she's working for the pirates, and now she actually is the one to call them and say, "Hey, it's undefended. Come attack it." Yeah. Again, I'm tempted to go back and rewatch Resistance and pay attention this time.
Now,
I mean, I just saw a video that featured the T-85 X-wing that's featured in that show, and I was like, wow, that's a cool looking ship. Maybe I'll watch a whole show just to see that cool.
The T-80, which opens, it's in the first, the not the Poe Dameron one, but the next one.
The next one, yeah,
right. Yeah. Which is the one that Kaz Ziono is flying at the beginning of the first episode.
Right.
Now these aren't the same speeders as the ones on the pirate gang on Book of Boba Fett, is it?
I don't think so. They could be similar. They all have that similar kind of swoop bike,
yeah. I mean, there's a few differences on these, like from that stock image, and then
those ones had more of the like the ape hanger bar, like the chopper, whereas the handlebars are quite forward. Yeah. With a left to right wipe transition, we pick up with the Havoc Marauder now in a low atmospheric flight. Much to my surprise, it appears that whoever stole the ship decided not to take it off world. The ship sways back and forth rather violently while Gonki wobbles up to the cockpit, where the thief is now at the controls and flying it like it's their first time behind the wheel of a car in some farmer's field. Still wearing the respirator, the thief, in a very male voice, tells Gonki to shut up, adding that they're getting annoyed. As the Havoc Marauder descends into a valley, we can see what looks like some kind of mining settlement around the perimeter of a giant open pit mine. Inside, the thief pulls off their helmet and respirator, and we can see it's a teenage boy. Now, the boy pulls out a handheld comlink, and he radios the settlement. "Mako, it's Benny." Speaking gruffly, Mako's deep voice comes back with, "You're late, kid." Benny tells him that his scouting run took longer than expected, but he has something that Mako is going to like, and he asks for the shield to be lowered. It's very Return of the Jedi-ish. From a bird's eye view, we watch as the Havoc Marauder floats down inside the huge open pit. Now, there is a massive central tower that takes up about a third of the diameter of the pit, and the ship maneuvers around it, coming to rest on a platform that's jutting out from the pit wall. Another teenager manning a control panel throws a lever nearly as tall as he is, and the platform rotates into the pit wall and is sealed by a massive metal door. Now, this character is Benny Barrow. Now, Benny Barrow is making his first appearance here. He's voiced by voice actor Yuri Lowenthal, who has over 780 acting credits. This might be the most accomplished voice actor we've ever spoken about. Now, while he has worked on other Star Wars properties like The Old Republic, Rogue One, The Last Jedi, Solo, and Jedi Fallen Order, all of those roles were as additional voices. Now, Benny Barrow is just his second credited Star Wars role, the first one being the animated version of Rebel Y-Wing pilot Dutch Vander, also known as Gold Leader. Now, that was in Star Wars Rebels. But Yuri has been the voice of Ben Tennyson of Ben 10 fame since the 2004 Ben 10 Alien Force for a total of 183 episodes. And I'm almost certain that they're doing the same thing here that they did with the racing episode, where we had Sonic the Hedgehog being our droid racer. We now have Ben 10 as Benny. I feel that's an intentional... I just call him Benny as a nod to Ben 10. I've got some more nods for this character later on, but I'm going to save those.
All right.
Getting up from the pilot's seat, Benny spots a partially eaten ration bar on the floor of the cockpit. Now, going wide-eyed, he practically jumps on it, wipes the dust off the bar, and wastes no time scoffing it down. Ugh. Happy to have some food in his stomach, Benny smiles widely as Gonky watches while squawking and chattering at him. That's a pretty good indication of sort of yeah. Dude's like excited about a granola bar, a half-eaten granola bar at that.
Yeah.
You ever picked up food off the floor of your car?
Yeah, to throw it away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, nobody's looking, and you're like, "Is this fry still good?"
Yeah, that will, especially in the winter. So there's a thing that's
a little salty.
Yeah, go ahead.
You sort of get the same vibe off of this cadre, although maybe not as well organized as you do again off the cadre on Corellia in Solo.
Yeah.
With Lady Proxima. And so while there's this underlying sort of slave culture throughout the galaxy where, the Empire is enslaving troops, I guess you could say, and literally enslaving like Wookiees and Anakin was a slave. You see these low level villains, if you will, instead of enslaving, like not the Zygerian slavers that are enslaving like adults, but this Oliver Twist thing happening all over the place.
Where that comes up,
a ton of advantage taking in the galaxy.
It's pervasive throughout the whole episode, and I have some questions around that because it speaks to the bigger, like, what is going on in the galaxy? How bad is it? And I mean, I'll just bring it up right now. Like, we're not. I'm sure you guys aren't immune that the entire labor force in this entire settlement are children.
Right, exactly.
They're all kids. Where did this entire child labor force come from?
And are we leaning into stuff like Skeleton Crew, which we don't know a lot about, but we know that it revolves around a Goonies sort of aged kids and an adult in charge, like, is so interesting. That stuff is interesting to me for sure.
Are we planting a seed here for that? Is Benny Barrow going to be the inverse of Ahsoka Tano and make the leap from animation to live action? Sorry, no, the same as. I just totally messed that up.
Yeah, it's okay. She goes back and forth.
That's right. Yeah.
But like maybe these kids are survivors from the other village, right?
Yeah, that's true. I have all kinds of questions around it. Like, did the parents sell these kids off because that's how bad it is? Are they kidnapped? Because these kids don't look like
that's literally what Rey's parents do, and Rey's parents have her best interests at heart, and they sell her to a child labor thing. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
It's a it's a good way to make money.
It is. Well, at the edge of the hangar, a hatchway slides open and a humanoid alien on a cane limps in, escorted by droid guards, as well as some other teenage boys. This is Mako. Now, one of Mako's arms is a crude cybernetic prosthetic that terminates in a four-pronged claw. Earlier this week, I saw some people making the analogy that he looks like Azog. Azog the Defiler from the Hobbit trilogy.
We finally know where Echo's device came from now.
Yeah,
really.
I was gonna say that too.
Like, right here.
Are they going to take a souvenir and give it to Echo? Here, have a new attachment.
As the camera pans up to his face, we can see that he has a long, pointy, and swept back ears and a ridged forehead plating that give him this sort of armadillo humanoid look. Mako's droid guards carry what look like metal clubs, even though Descriptive Audio Guy calls them blasters in this scene. Descriptive Audio Guy.
It can be multi-purpose.
Descriptive Audio Guy again.
Mako to me looks like if you told an AI to draw a warrior Yoda.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I see, classic fantasy tropes. I do see an orc, an armored orc.
Heavy, with the turtle shell kind of forehead.
Yeah, very much so. Now, the half dozen teenagers, all dressed in miners' outfits that accompany him, are all unarmed. Benny walks down the boarding ramp of the Havoc Marauder, guiding his light speeder bike with one hand, and he walks over to Mako. Taking in the sight of the ship, now in front of him. Mako tells Benny that when he said he had something for him, he wasn't expecting this. Proud of himself, Benny tells Mako that he stole it from some amateurs that were poking around the old mines in the Northern Territory. I might regret calling them amateurs by the end of this.
He did take them, though, pretty easily.
Did. Ignoring the boy, Mako walks past him and up the boarding ramp to take a look inside. Turning, he says, miners don't travel in ships like this, and it looks like it's been specially modified. And he says it could attract the wrong kind of attention. I think it's fair to say wrong kind of attention is imperial.
I would
or anything that would mess with what he's got going on here.
Yeah,
a rival organization.
Yeah,
that begs the question: is this under the radar of the mining guild?
Maybe,
probably.
Because you'd figure the mining guild would have like at least some rule structure set in place.
You would
to appear on the level.
Yeah, I would think so. And having an all-child labor force is probably not on the.
No,
it's not part of it.
Especially considering what they're mining here.
Exactly.
Like they gave it to us straight last episode. Like this is not to be played with.
Right.
You're not just hacking coal out of there.
Yeah. While tapping Benny on the shoulder with his cybernetic arm, he says, "Are you trying to cause trouble for me after I've been so good to you?" Wide-eyed and afraid, Benny pleads with him, No, Mako, honest, I thought you could make some money off it. That's all. I swear. Poking the boy in the chest with his prosthetic, he tells Benny that he believes him, but he'll have to sell it off piece by piece just to be safe. Clearly seeking praise and approval for his theft of the ship, Benny asks if this puts him in the running for the top earner of the cycle. And that's an important detail. That's going to come back around a couple of times. Using his cybernetic arm, Mako lifts the boy's chin and tells him, "We'll have to see, Benny. We'll have to see." But he does tell him that he did a good job. And as a show of gratitude, Mako tells Benny that he can keep Gonki as a reward. As Mako goes to walk away, Benny asks, "What about water rations?" And he adds that he was out scouting for 4 rotations. Now, we understand a rotation to be 1 revolution of the planet you're on. We just have no idea how long a rotation on this planet is. So was that like days, weeks? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Long enough that the kid needs water. Mako stops and turns around to face Benny. Taking out a canteen, he says, "Right you are." He then unscrews the cap from the canteen, and Benny reaches for it. But before he can take it, Mako lifts the canteen to his own mouth and downs what I figure is a considerable amount of the water before handing over what's left to the boy. Now, the other teenage boys, they watch and they grin like a pack of high school bullies. Benny guzzles what's left of the water as Mako taps him on the shoulder again and says, "Mako always takes care of his crew." He then barks at the other boys to strip the ship of anything useful, and they leap into action with a boisterous howl. Woohoo! Lowering the canteen, Benny offers a sincere thanks to Mako. Then he and Mako and his droids turn and leave the hangar while a seemingly meaningless light on Gonki's front panel begins to flash, and he starts honking. Now, Mako, that's Jonathan Lipow, who's been the voice of several things. I keep going back to the race announcer. Best I can tell about Mako is this is a new species making a first appearance here. His role in this is, like you said, Hank, it's this slaver thing. There's an Unkar Plut vibe kind of going on here for me.
Yep.
Like you do all this work for me, I'll give you a little ration.
The water
ration. Doing you a favor.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll look out for you.
Which is weird because last week we did find out there are like crazy underground reservoirs here.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lake over there. You forgot.
Could be salt water though.
Yeah.
Purify it.
And then I'm going to swing back around. I get caught up on this stuff. I don't know if I spent too much time on this. I want to talk about Mako's droid escorts because I found them to be quite interesting.
Yeah. The cooler things.
Initially, the color palette threw me off, but looking at it, this is very clearly the BX series commando droid body. that's been redecoed. But that head, I'm like, what is that? Like, is that a Cylon? What is that? And I kind of get HK Hunter Killer vibes off of it. Now, what's interesting, this is me kind of jumping ahead here. They mentioned that these droids at one point belong to the Techno Union. And I went down this rabbit hole on Techno Union droids, and there was nothing that matched this. So maybe these were like Techno Union specific battle droids,
maybe,
that we just never saw in live action.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They could be kit bashing assets too. Like
they could be. Now, Andy, you had said the same thing.
Upside down, or
you'd said the same thing, that maybe they were putting these things together. I don't, just because of the sheer number of them and how consistently they are. I think that these are an actual model of some variant of the BX series that maybe was just specific to Techno.
I just meant the animators would have been kit bashing from their,
of course,
stuff, right?
The funny thing is, I could not find that head anywhere else. I looked. Now, I didn't want to spend too much time on it, but I did make a sincere effort to look for it. Guys, if you who are watching now or possibly in the replay, if you have any idea on where that head may have came from, let us know in the comments. I'm very curious to know what you guys think.
I look at it now and it looks a lot like classic Cylon mixed with.
It does. Yeah, I even at one point I had
head on.
I had the reimagined Cylon. I had a head in there, and I'm like, kind of, but no.
More like the classic, but with shorter sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. When we're going to get another look at them later on, because there's quite a cool action sequence. Probably one of my favorite action sequences of the entire season, to be honest. But that's a little later.
Yeah. Well, for now, though, like from a toy maker's perspective, reuse of an asset, just slap a new head on it. And
we haven't gotten this yet, though. Like, we've gotten the B1 battle droid. The commando droid, I think, is a little bit more. Robust. A little bit, yeah.
That's the word. Yeah.
I would love to see it. I think that'd be cool.
The show this season does feel like He-Man, where we're just being like, here's a character, here's a character, here's a character.
It's He-Man's legs and Skeletor's arms.
Yeah.
We'll just kit bash these things together. All right. Well, back at the abandoned spaceport, Omega's scanner begins to ping, and she lights up as she tells the rest of the crew, I think I found Gonky. Wrecker chuckles, having just half heard her, and then it sinks in, and he's like, what? You found him? Handing the scanner back to Tech, Omega points at the reading and says that his signal is just 100 kilometers east of them, and if he's still on the planet, then there's a good chance that the Havoc Marauder is too. Now, with a renewed sense of purpose, Hunter flashes a glance at the broken down speeder before looking back at Tech and saying, let's get this thing running and find out. Well, later, the Bad Batch, all clinging to the Junker speeder as they rattle across the open desert. It backfires and belches smoke from the rear engines, but it is moving at a fair clip and holds together. I included this... I included this. This was commonplace when I was overseas in Afghanistan. We saw this all the time. Entire families like clung onto these Chinese-made motorcycles.
Yep.
How they stayed on the thing. I put it in here for comedy, but like the reality is that people do this.
Oh, I've seen videos on Fail Army where they've packed the things down with like more than you would fit on a truck.
Yeah.
And they're still balancing it.
Yeah. We saw this all the time. Well, later, where am I here? It is okay, and then find out. It is holding together. After nightfall, the clones reach the open pit, the settlement around the open pit, and they look down at it from high up on a ridge. Tech tells them that Gonky's signal is definitely pinging from somewhere in the settlement. He says that there are minimal life forms around him, but there is also an unknown number of life forms in the subterranean levels. Wrecker says the settlement looks worse than the abandoned spaceport. And then Hunter says, well, we'll do a split approach, and he cautions everyone to stay alert. Well, down in the settlement, we can see that most, if not all of the dwellings on the surface are made out of converted shipping containers, not unlike a lot of the shanty towns that we've seen in South Africa. Outside of one of the dwellings, Benny works the controls on Gonky's control panel. When nothing happens, he takes a step back and he puts his hands on his hips and he says, I guess I'll have to sell you for parts. When Gonky lets out a single honk, Benny throws his hands up in frustration and says, because you're useless to me. What am I going to do with a defective power droid? Did we know that he's defective?
I don't think he's fully defective.
I didn't think so either. I thought he was
probably
still
just not cooperating.
That could be too. Well, then a voice from behind Benny says, that's our defective power droid. Turning to face the voice, Benny sees Hunter and Tech looming over him. And not messing around, Hunter leans in and he demands to know where their ship is. Now, immediately, Benny starts to backpedal as he stammers, oh, you see, the thing is... But before he can think of anything else to say, his fight or flight response kicks in and he makes a run for it. Hopping on his speeder scooter, he wheels around the container and he tries to speed off, but instead he runs smack dab into Wrecker, who knocks him clean off the bike with a clothesline to the chest. And all I have to say is that kid is lucky to be alive after taking a blow like that. But Benny is still very motivated, and rolling up to his feet, he tries to scramble away. But after just 2 or 3 steps, he finds himself on the business end of Omega's energy bow, and he falls backwards with his hand outstretched in a please don't shoot kind of way. Wrecker tosses Benny to the ground in front of Gonky and then asks the droid if he's okay. Now Gonky lets out a couple of honk honk while a confused Benny asks, what do you care how that thing's doing? It's just a beat up old battery. Now, firmly, Omega tells him, not to us. Then removing his helmet, Hunter gets back to the matter at hand. Where's our ship? Now, speaking coyly, Benny asks, can you be more specific? And Omega hits it on the head when she retorts, the one you stole yesterday. Benny chuckles nervously. Oh, right, that ship. He tells them that Mako has it and that he gave Gonky over as a gift. And Tech asks, who exactly is this Mako? Well, getting to his feet, Benny tells them that Mako runs the whole town and calls him the boss, adding, your ship's his now, while Wrecker retorts, yeah, we'll see about that. Putting the pressure on Benny, Hunter and Tech step a little bit closer and they close the circle around him. Not mincing words, Hunter simply says, take us to it. Now, Benny throws his arms up in protest. And with a hint of fear in his voice, he says, no way, I can't help you go against Mako. You don't know what he's done for me. Not impressed with the answer, Wrecker leans over top of the boy and he growls very menacingly, like literally growls like a dog, which I have to say, I'm going to put it out there now. I found that to be really annoying by the 4th, 5th time he did it. Like, come on, Wrecker. Like, and let me be clear about this. Wrecker gets the MVP moment of the episode in one line, which completely blows me away because on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got come on.
Let me recontextualize the for you though.
Sure.
This is a kid's show.
Yeah.
And this moment is Benny is like more afraid of Mako, but that Gur is saying, you might be afraid of him, but we'll kill you.
I get it.
If you don't take us to our ship.
If you're afraid of him, you should be more afraid of me.
Yeah, basically.
That's fair. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one.
Because you can't really say that to a kid in a kid's show.
Right.
So
okay, that's fair.
Let him growl it out.
All right. Well, that's enough to get Benny to cave in as he says, all right. I can show you where your ship is. But if you get caught, you don't know me. So something that a underworld person would say, a low-level underworldling.
Yeah.
Later
for now, but I might switch on you later.
Later on, Benny leads the batch down to the edge of the mining pit. As they sit and observe the approach to the mine, Benny tells them that the Techno Union ran the mine before the end of the war. But Mako has since taken over when they were forced out and has kept it running ever since. Now, derisively, Omega says, so you're an Ipsium miner and a ship thief. Matter-of-factly, Benny tells her that Mako says they're useful skills, and Omega retorts that stealing isn't a skill. With a grin on his face, Benny says, that is when you're good at it. There's a cool panning shot here where the camera starts at the top of that stack and it pans down to the settlement, and it couldn't get it all in one. So that's a composite of like 3 images that I put in there, but I wanted to get the full scope of the thing. So hopefully that looks okay.
Yeah.
All right. Pulling out his scanner, Tech shows a hollow image of the mining complex. Now he says that the central portal, the big pit, is ray shielded, and that all of the subterranean entrances appear to be guarded in shifts. Well, not worried about those details, Wrecker shrugs it off with we've stormed tougher strongholds than that in this season, as a matter of fact. But Benny has a different assessment as he points out that they can't just go in using blasters because there's a good chance that they'll blow up the mine and pretty much kill everyone if they miss. And he implores them to cut their losses. Well, then Wrecker lets out another intimidating growl, and Benny cowers from him. Well, looking closer at the hollow image, Tech says there's still one covert entry point. And then the image flickers and it shifts to a close-up of the large smokestack at the center of the pit. Tech points at the actual stack just as a blast of high-pressure steam vents out over several seconds. Continuing his explanation, he tells them there is a lower access hatch inside the stack, and if they time it correctly, they can rappel down in between exhaust cycles. Hunter asks exactly how long the window is between cycles, and Tech tells him that it's just 60 seconds. Confidently, Omega blurts out, plenty of time.
Gonk in 60 seconds.
Gonk in 60 seconds. That's good. Now, Benny, on the other hand, doesn't share that enthusiasm, and he says that getting cooked alive was not on his agenda, and he wishes them good luck, and he turns to leave like he's just going to walk away. I brought you, now bye. No, Hunter grabs him by the shoulder and stops him. Menacingly, he says to Benny, you can go when we have our ship back. Staring back at Hunter, Benny's expression twists up into a fearful grimace. So he's definitely got the fear thing working against him anyway.
Yep.
Well, later on, the crew, along with Benny, they reach the top of the stack. They've climbed a ladder. Hunter coils a rope while Wrecker looks down on the shantytown. Suddenly aware of his fear of heights, he lets out a, oh boy, and he moves back from the edge. Now, as the crew make their preparations to rappel into the stack, now, Benny tries the old slip away again, but is immediately stopped by Wrecker, who grabs him by the shoulder. Now, Hunter secures a grappling hook to the platform that they're standing on, and Tech tells him, on my mark. Well, just then, the stack erupts with another gout of steam. Cowering below the lip of the stack, Benny says, this is a very bad idea. Then Tech's scanner beeps, and Tech calls out, now. While throwing the loose end of the rope down into the stack, Hunter jumps up onto the lip, and without hesitation, he falls forward, running down the inner wall of the glowing stack in an Aussie-style rappel, and it is one of the most beautiful shots in the episode.
Yeah.
Suddenly, a droid steps out from the maintenance hatch and walks out onto the grating, forcing Hunter to halt his descent. While back at the top of the stack, Wrecker whispers to Tech, chiding him, you said it was unguarded. And Tech tells him, well, it was at the time. Meanwhile, Hunter watches as the droid secures its club and uses a data pad to take a reading from the steam vent. With the clock ticking, Omega whispers, there's only 30 seconds before another vent of steam. Now, Benny asserts that Hunter's not going to make it, and he insists that if they bail out before they... let me try that again.
Bail.
Benny asserts that Hunter isn't going to make it, and he insists that they bail out before it's too late. But Omega sternly tells him, we don't do that. Rah-rah, Omega.
Yep.
Benny leans over the lip of the stack to look down at Hunter, who's dangling precariously on his rappel line. When he does, he accidentally bumps Omega, which knocks the flashlight out of her hand, and it falls into the stack. Now, fortunately for Hunter, it was close enough to the wall that he is able to snatch it as it passes by.
There's them reflexes.
On the radio, Tech tells him that he has to move. Securing the flashlight, Hunter coils up against the wall and he springs as hard as he can, leaping off the rope onto the unassuming droid below. Now, the two of them roll towards the closed hatch and the droid comes up swinging its club. Now, the descriptive audio at this point refers to it as a stun baton, and that makes sense considering you probably don't want to kill your labor force if you have to keep them in line. With just 5 seconds left before another venting of steam, Hunter punches the droid and then in the chest, and then he flips it into the center of the grate. And as the exhaust cycle starts up, Hunter has just enough time to open the hatch and dive through, while the droid is utterly consumed by the superheated liquid. I laughed then and I'm laughing now because in my mind, I'm like, did the droid survive the steam? Like, was the steam hot enough to like melt it? Or is the droid suddenly like ejected out the stack wondering, what the hell am I doing here?
Why am I so clean?
Yeah. If they're leftovers from the Techno Guild or whatever,
the Techno Union,
you would think they'd be built to withstand the conditions of the mine.
Of the mine. That makes sense. But well, so that being said, now the droid's like, I didn't know I could fly. How am I going to land?
That'd probably do him in.
Falling with style.
The things that happen off camera, right? Like there's a side story there. All right. Well, this scene is pretty cool. I don't know if you guys caught this. It's a very subtle callback to the carbon freezing chamber, right down to that. You can hear some of the same, like the
mechanisms.
Yeah. But it is obviously like a nod to Empire Strikes Back, and I applaud them for that. Yep. All right. At the top of the stack, the crew duck as the exhaust cycle runs its course. While down in the maintenance tunnel, Hunter vents the room and closes the hatch before radioing in, all clear. At the top of the stack, Benny lowers his arms from cowering at the steam as he meekly says, "You definitely aren't Ipsium miners." Standing over him, Omega points at him as she says, "Nope, you stole the wrong ship."
It was at that moment he knew.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, look at it. She like gives him the point, like, you did the wrong thing. One by one, the crew slide down a rope line and they link up with Hunter. Benny then leads them to another platform that overlooks the central tower. And Benny motions for the crew to be quiet. And they all look up to see several suspension bridges leading into the central tower. Now, each one of them is filled with a long line of workers slowly moving across the bridge, while more droid guards armed with stun batons watch over them. Tech remarks that the conditions of the mine are less than ideal, and Benny tells him it's because the Ipsium has degraded, adding that Mako had to lower wages just to keep this mine running. Then optimistically, he says, at least we're still working, and Omega, she frowns at that sentiment. Now, this whole mine thing, I'm not going to lie here.
Kind of reminds you of Mustafar.
Well, so there's Mustafar vibes, but there's something else going on here. The
Temple
child labor force. Well, and there you hit it right on the head for me, Hank. Definitely getting some Temple of Doom vibes here.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if that's sort of the inspiration for having just kids.
Maybe. With the line he says, at least we're still working. That means he's got them so blinded.
Yeah.
Oh, you're working for me. That's a good thing.
And it's just a loose thematic sort of callback. I don't think there's anything really overt. I don't equate Mako to Mola Ram or anything like that.
No.
But definitely the droids are the thuggy guards, and the kids are the kids, albeit they're not magically brainwashed in this episode.
No, they're almost there like willingly because they don't know any better.
Right. Or the parents sold them off.
Yeah,
and that's all. As you said, that's all they know.
Brainwashing, right?
Yeah, but they do say the Techno Union was forced out, so it's fully possible that their parents were, collateral damage.
Possibly, yeah.
And in comes Mako and be like, "Oh, come with me, kiddies, I'll save you."
What's interesting about that, I'm just going to touch on that for a second too. We talk about all these different groups in the prequel era. We've got the Trade Federation, we've got the Techno Union, the Banking Clan,
the Mining Guild.
The Mining Guild is another one. But we associate all these different little splinter groups within the Confederacy with the specific species. Like when you say Trade Federation, you automatically go, oh, okay, it's Newt Gunray and the Nemoidians.
Right.
They couldn't have all been just singular species.
No, you would have to think like multiple people would throw their hat in. Like, okay, I'm going to throw in with these guys.
Like the Techno Union was a cyborg guy. We only meet one guy, Wat Tambor.
Yeah.
Wat Tambor.
Yeah. All right. Well, Benny tells them that the Havoc Marauder is in the upper garage bay across from the central tower, and he tells them to follow him because he knows a shortcut. Now, before he moves off, Hunter stops him by the shoulder and reminds him, no tricks. And Benny answers, hey, I'm not trying to get caught either. And then he leads them around the platform and down another corridor. Well, in the hangar, the Havoc Marauder is resting on several cables, suspending it a few feet in the air. It's not actually resting on its own landing gear. This is another composite shot that I put together. Benny, feeling satisfied with himself, tries to excuse himself again. This is the third time he's just tried to walk away now.
Yeah, here you go. I'm done.
But is held up by Tech, who steps over to the ship, and he points out that the hyperdrive has been removed. Now, Benny protests that they didn't ask him what condition it would be in, and asks, how's that my fault? A wrecker gives him a shove and growls at him for the 43rd time this episode.
Yep.
But
just in case he forgot.
Yeah. And Benny, now risky move on Benny's part, tells him to relax. What?
The thread is losing its luster.
Yeah. Adding that it's not a complicated repair. Now Hunter tells the crew to grab the hyperdrive and make it quick. But then Omega asks, what about the ray shield? Pointing out that in order to leave, it needs to be shut down. Well, Benny points out that it can only be done from the central tower. While turning to face him, Hunter says, let's go. But Benny objects with a no way and says that Hunter and the other armored and armed clones just stick out too much. He adds that if they don't trust him to go alone, then Omega can go with him because at least she'll be able to blend in. Hunter scowls at the suggestion, but after a second, he looks at Omega and says, don't let him out of your sight. At the same time, Tech hands Omega a data pad and tells her to transfer the data into it, and then he can access the shield remotely. Omega snaps, let's go. But it's Benny this time that does the stopping as he says, not like that. And with that, Omega stops and she kind of takes a look at her uniform. Oh, might be a little out of place.
Maybe.
In another part of the mine, Mako sits alone in his private chamber, feasting like a glutton on all manner of food. There is literally trays of meat and fruit on every horizontal surface in this room.
Yeah.
It's more food than any one person could eat in a single meal. Now
he is just shoveling.
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just gluttony.
Yeah.
A hatch slides open and one of the droid guards walks in and it chatters something at him. In response, Mako says, they can wait until I'm good and ready. The droid leaves and Mako voraciously downs some soup and tears into a meat kebab of some sort and then washes it all down with a long drink from his goblet.
Nerf nuggets?
Could be the same kebabs from the racing episode.
Maybe.
Kind of looks like that. Later, Benny leads Omega down a ladder. Of course, Omega is now dressed. She's wearing his coat, by the way.
Yeah.
So much for my guess that was a woman.
Well, a small.
I thought it was an Ugnaught, so I thought it was Hondo.
Sleight of frame. Yeah, we did go through that. We are so wrong. When we're wrong, we're like hilariously wrong.
Swing for the fences.
That's true. Okay, where are we here?
Benny's leading her down a ladder.
Yeah, looking around a corner, Benny spots 3 other teenage workers laughing and chatting amongst themselves as they walk down the corridor. Now, with some suspicion in her voice, Omega recounts that Benny told her the control room is on the top level. And Benny tells her that, well, they can't just walk right in because only Mako's inner circle have the required access cards and they have to steal one. Curiously, Omega asks, you're not part of his inner circle? And Benny tells her, not yet, but he will be. He's just working his way up. And then Benny says that if Mako finds out that he helped her, he'll be sent to the mines, and he tells Omega to act natural. Fly casual.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that stealing thing is going to be a good skill now.
It is in the context of this episode, for sure. It is. Well, climbing down yet another ladder, Benny and Omega enter some kind of mess hall where other boys are gathered. Two of them are seated at a nearby table playing some kind of a table game using hexagonal chips. One of the boys with a very striking facial tattoo smirks as he says, "We were just talking about you, Benny. Where you been?" Well, sitting down beside the boy, Benny answers, "Here and there," while Omega sits down at the table next to them and watches. Now, continuing, the boy says, "Bet you think the ship you stole let me try that again. Continuing, the boy says, "Bet you think the ship you scored from Mako will make you the top earner this round?" Looking down, Benny spots the access card that they need sticking out of the boy's pocket. And Benny answers, "Why not? You can't expect to win every time." And the boy chuckles as he picks up one of the gaming pieces. And then looking at Benny, he slaps the gaming piece down on the table and he says, "Can't I?" And it's not just a metaphor either, because slapping that chip down is the winning move to the game that he was playing. And he slides the giant stack of winnings chips toward him while his opponent just hangs his head in disappointment. It's a very cocky move. It's there's a Lando Han thing there.
Flexing in front of him.
Well, this character, his name is Drake, is played by voice actor Alex Lee. Now, Alex has just over 100 acting credits. Most of them are video games and anime. His most recent work is on the English language version of Rent-A-Girlfriend, where he plays the character Kazuya. Now, he also plays James Woo in the 2020 video game Marvel's Avengers. Now, Drake is his very first Star Wars role.
Cool.
Well, just then the door slides open and in walks Mako, escorted by 4 of his droid guards. Using his cybernetic arm, he wipes the schmutz off his mouth. Benny whispers to Omega, "That's Mako." And getting up from the table, Drake blurts out, "About time, I'm starving." But then Benny gets up and shoulder checks Drake in the back. Reflexively, Drake elbows him back, and Benny catches himself on the edge of the table. Then, seeing that everyone has left the room, he flashes Drake's access card that he just swiped, and he says, "See, it's a skill." Unimpressed, Omega says, "Great, can we go now?" But Benny is so concerned with the coveted top earner title that he has to hear what the tally is. And slumping her shoulders, Omega hangs her head as she follows Benny out of the mess hall. It's like a real Charlie Brown, like after he misses the football kind of thing, and he kind of walks away with his head down.
Yeah.
In another room, Mako orders the boys to stand sharp. Once the commotion dies down, he launches into his speech about how it's been a lean season and they've all had to make sacrifices. Continuing, he says that while some of the boys have been working hard this quarter, some continue to fall short, but he always takes care of those who earn. Now, the boys all lean in as Mako begins to announce who the top earner is. And judging by the look in Benny's eye, you can tell that he thinks he's got it locked up. But then Mako points and he shouts, "Drake!" Drake grins and holds his arms out and leans back in a "who, me?" kind of way. And then he walks forward to receive his just reward, while an angry Benny mutters under his breath, "You gotta be kidding me." Drake stands in front of Mako, and one of the droid guards steps forward and hands the boy a bowl of soup. Voraciously, Drake wolfs it down while the other boys take it all in. Some of them with envy, while others have this look of despair, but it is clear that all of them are hungry. But the blows keep coming as Mako tells the group that rations are low, and that means that the boys now have to work harder and longer if they're going to survive. Concluding the galaxy's worst motivational speech ever, Mako tells the boy that he won't let them starve. Then one of the droid guards places a single bowl of soup on a nearby table and steps back, and it's a free-for-all, and the half dozen boys all shove each other as they vie for position around the bowl. Mako just chuckles at the sight, and then he and the droids leave, while Benny and Omega stare at the mob competing for a bowl of soup. Well, Benny scowls and shakes his head before he and Omega leave the room. Is this top earner? Is this a once like everyday thing? I was trying to figure out this, like the way that they're like hinged. They're like, they all split one bowl of soup. Now Drake, top earner, got his own bowl of soup.
Yeah.
You've got to be feeding them at least once a day.
Yeah. Because like you can't go an entire quarter on one bowl of
soup.
One
bowl of soup split 6 ways. I think there's 6 kids in there.
At least.
So yeah, it was a curiosity thing. Like, is this top earner thing like once a week, once a month? Like what's going on here?
There's definitely a misdirect from him though, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay, don't focus on me. You focus on being top earner.
Yeah.
So you're competing against the rest of you.
Is there a red flag for Mako that Benny doesn't jump in and try to get some out of the bowl too? Because it's like,
well, there is that. And like, who's the new girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the new girl? Didn't notice that one. All right. Well, back in the hangar, Wrecker and Tech are busy working on the Havoc Marauder while Hunter stands guard. Using his comlink, Hunter asks Tech how things are looking. And Tech tells him that he can easily have most of the ship's systems back online, but until the hyperdrive is installed, they won't be going anywhere. With the hyperdrive literally in hand, Wrecker lifts it into the undercarriage of the ship while he shouts, "I'm working on it!" As Omega and Benny cross one of the suspension bridges toward the central tower, Benny is clearly angry as he tells Omega that even though he stole a starship, it still wasn't enough to make the top earner spot. Omega says, "You shouldn't have to compete for food." But Benny tells her that that's just the way it is here. They all have to earn their share. Then placing the access card in the lock, he says, "But I'll impress Mako, just wait." Then after punching in a code on the control panel, the door slides open and the two of them move on. After climbing a ladder, Benny and Omega enter another dimly lit corridor with a door at the end. Benny inserts the access card and punches the door controls, and it slides open, revealing the control room beyond. As the two enter the room, Omega pulls out her comlink and she radios in that they've made it, and Hunter tells her to get the shield code and get back to the hangar. Omega sets to work plugging in her datapad into the computer, unaware that Benny, who's still standing behind her, has just tripped a switch on a nearby console. I guess he really meant it when he said he was going to impress Mako.
Yep.
Now, leaning against one of the consoles, Benny remarks, "They really treat you like one of them. I wish Mako did that." Taking off Benny's long coat, Omega says, "It doesn't seem like he cares about any of you. Why don't you leave?" Omega goes to check on the progress of the data transfer, and Benny scoffs as he tells her she's wrong about Mako. He's the one that keeps them in business. And according to Mako, with more time and more digging, they're bound to reach better Ipsium soon. Folding, I was just going to get through this slide.
Yeah.
Folding his arms, Benny laments, "Besides, I can't leave. This is my home. It's what I know." Turning to face him, Omega tells Benny that she gets it. She tells him that their ship is their home and it's the only one they have. Scratching the back of his neck nervously and avoiding eye contact with her, Benny tells Omega he's sorry for stealing it. With a slight smile, she says, "Here, you can have my rations." And she hands him a prepackaged field ration bar. And Benny's confused as to why she would want to give it to him, and she tells him because he's helping them. Wearily, Benny takes the ration bar and he thanks her. Then Omega goes back to work on the data transfer, and Benny takes a bite from the ration bar while he looks nervously at her and then at the door.
He must feel like crap at this moment.
You just gave me food and I sold you out. Oh, I'm so sorry. Checking in the comments, we got TJC joining us tonight. Good evening, all. Hello, TJC. Nice to see you again. Our friend Ken over at Toy Connections finally caught up on the Bad Batch. Ken, so glad that you're finally caught up. I hope you are not disappointed in Mission of the Week, that there's been enough to hold your interest there. Thank you for joining us.
Oh.
All right. So,
rations.
Not a lot of language in this week's episode. However, there is this on the ration bar itself. The translation is field ration Z, or Z, depending on where you live in the world, and 300. 300, is that the
maybe
grams?
Protein count or
grams? Weight. I thought it was weight of the bar.
Yeah, actually that'd make more sense.
Yeah. Field ration Z. How many letters are in the Orabesh alphabet? There's like 30 some now with the contractions. Yeah. Is there A through, Y?
Maybe.
I should ask him, does that taste like the one you picked up off the floor?
A little bit better, no dust.
So there's your big language moment this week.
All right.
Well, back in the hangar, the crew continued their work on the Marauder, closing up a panel. Tech radios that the motivator is installed, but he still has to connect the primaries to the guidance system and adjust the Navicomputer. I love it when they give us some good old technobabble. Of all of that, I really only got, Navicomputer guidance system. Guidance system for what? The weapons? What? I don't know.
For flying in right.
Wrecker, who's hanging upside down from the bottom of the ship, declares the weapons systems are online. Now, Hunter, who's standing on top of the ship, radios back that they aren't engaging. He says the situation for the kids here is already bad enough, which opens the door for Tech to point out that Mako is using his power as a way to leverage the workers. And he says it's a tactic that's similar to what the Empire is doing, albeit on a much smaller scale. And the Empire presumably is not doing it with kids.
No,
they're just doing it with everybody else.
Doing it with the galaxy.
Speaking of children, just then, two boys climb the ladder into the hangar. Spotting them, Hunter slides down the hall and he tucks himself in behind the folded up port side wing. As the boys step off the ladder, one of them says to the other, "Didn't Bryce and Hugh say they removed the hyperdrive?" Then the boys spot Wrecker and Tech and they ask, "Hey, who are you?" Wrecker tries his best to bluff them with, Mako sent us, and it's almost like a question. The boys look at each other, and the boy on the ladder, he just kind of shrugs his shoulders. Then Hunter jumps down to the deck. With both hands outstretched, he slowly walks towards them, trying to keep the situation from escalating. He calmly says, "Easy, we're just here for our ship." But the boys won't have it, and they slide down the ladder. Immediately, Hunter bolts after them, yelling for Tech and Wrecker to get the engines online as he chases them down the ladder. Now, back in the control room, Benny asks Omega, "Any luck with the shield code?" And she tells him, "Not yet. Most of the data is just Mako's profit reports." How convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Then something catches Omega's eye, and she says, "I thought you said the Ipsium here is degraded." When Benny tells her it is, she says, "Not according to this." And she hands him the data pad still connected to the computer. Suddenly, the door panel starts beeping. Wide-eyed, Benny yanks the cable out of the computer and he hides the data pad behind his back. Shocked, Omega looks at Benny before the door slides open and Mako limps in, escorted by two droid guards. Chuckling, Mako exclaims, "My thief caught another thief." Omega flashes an angry look at Benny, and he sheepishly just looks down at her. Mako then praises Benny and tells him he's impressed. Holding up his cybernetic arm, he spins his clawed hand and brandishes at Omega and asks, "Where are the others?" In a downtrodden voice, Benny says they're in the hangar garage, and then turns to Omega and says, "I'm sorry, I had to." Heaping more praise onto Benny, Mako blurts out, "That's my boy," and tells him that Top Earner is definitely in his future.
No, it's not.
I know, but you got to keep that illusion. You've got to keep it alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then Mako's droids flank Omega and they escort her out of the control room. And when they're gone, Benny pulls out the data pad from his the waistband of his pants and he just kind of stares at it. I think he's reconsidering what he did.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the mining complex, Hunter exits a door at a full run, stopping to look around for the two boys that he was chasing. They're nowhere to be seen. Well, then Tech radios in to say that the hyperdrive is nearly online, and Hunter sighs as he tells him, "I lost them." Then looking up at the overhead suspension bridge, Hunter sees several droid guards are lining up on the bridges, and he relays that back to Tech. Standing at the center of one of the bridges is Mako, and he shouts, "It appears we have uninvited guests. Care to show yourselves?" The door slides open and both Tech and Wrecker step out, blasters at the ready. acting as the tough guy. Mako waves his arms as he shouts, "So you think you can come here and steal from me?" Tech reminds him, well, technically speaking, the ship belongs to them. But Mako growls at them as he says, "Not anymore." With a chuckle, Mako tells them to rethink using their blasters, adding that one stray shot will doom them all. And we get a long shot of the entire bridge, and we can see that in addition to Mako and his droids, several of the boys, the workers, are also there poised to attack. But then
more
Wrecker
Temple of
gets
Doom vibes.
Very much so. Wrecker gets the MVP, the line of the episode, when he like cold, like cool as a cucumber, just stares at Mako and he says, "We don't miss." Yeah. If that's not the best line that character has ever delivered.
Yeah.
Mako laughs as he says, "I believe you, but I think you'll reconsider." From higher up in the complex, one of Mako's droid guards drags Omega to the edge of a broken bridge. Now she struggles against the droid as she tells it, "Get off me." Well, then more boys rush out onto the bridge behind Mako, and he orders the clones to lower their weapons, or Omega will be thrown off the broken bridge. Tech and Wrecker exchange glances, and they do lower their blasters, as does Hunter, who at this point still hasn't been seen by Mako, or any of the guards for that matter. Hunter then takes out a grapple launcher, and he starts to formulate a plan. A very cool plan, I might add. Mm-hmm. Well, back in the control room, Benny studies the datapad, resolved with what it says. He gets up and he leaves. Now I'm back on the bridge. Mako now accuses Wrecker and Tech of trespassing and attempted theft. He says that 10 years in the mines seems like a reasonable punishment, adding, "if you survive that long." He then orders the boys to take them below, and they all start advancing towards Tech and Wrecker. At this point, I'm like, if they're forced to fight kids, one, that sucks. Two, those kids are going to regret it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
they're used to stunning people left, right, and center, though.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but at least some of these bridges have railings. So plus in that way.
Railing save lives. They so do.
Yep.
They so do. Except for Mako.
Shh.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I can't help it. All right. Suddenly, Benny bursts onto the bridge at the other end behind Mako. He shouts, "Stop!" And dismissively, Mako says, "Not now, kid. I'm busy." But Benny won't have any of it as he shouts how Mako lied to them. He lied to them all. He says the Ipsium isn't degrading, and he's done nothing but cut the boys out, and he's kept all the profits for himself. Well, Mako, trying to exert his dominance, shouts for the other boys, "Don't listen to those lies." But Benny isn't finished, and he says, "You never cared about us at all," and then holds up the data pad and says, "I have the proof right here." Now, Drake, who's standing next to Benny, says, "Let me look at that." And Benny hands it over to him. He locks eyes with Mako for a moment before looking at the display. Frowning, Drake holds up the device and he walks towards Mako asking, "What's going on, Mako? We toil down in the mines while you enjoy the spoils?" Mako's eyes go wide, and suddenly the boys that were all advancing on Wrecker and Tech are now all facing Mako quite attentively. Like any tyrant whose rule is about to end, he goes off on a tirade about he was just taking his fair share and that without him, none of them would have survived. And he tells them not to forget it. Turning to the droids, one of them steps around Mako, putting itself between him and the boys. Then, waving at the droid on the upper bridge, he shouts, "Throw her over." Now, with the grapple attachment fixed to his pistol, Hunter fires a line up at the bridge where Omega and the droid are. Now, Omega spots the grappling hook, and she starts struggling against the droid again. And when the droid tries to throw her over, she's actually able to grab onto its arm with her other hand. Now, using her feet up against the edge of the broken bridge, she leans back. Hunter leaps off the catwalk as the grappler begins to retract. Then, seeing him in mid-flight, Omega grabs hold of the droid with both arms, leans back again over the edge, and she pushes hard with her legs, flipping both the droid and herself into the ether.
Really similar to the maneuver they used at the end of The Hobbit there, where
the
one elf chick throws the orc off.
Oh, I was thinking at the end when they're going into Mount Doom, tossing the One Ring into the pit.
True.
I mean, that's Gollum right there.
Yeah, that's true too. Kind of a mix.
A bit, yeah.
With a twist.
Yeah. As the droid falls uncontrollably toward the molten lava, Omega reaches out for Hunter and miraculously makes the catch as he zips past. Lifting her up, Omega clambers onto Hunter's back, and they both scramble back up onto the broken bridge. Now, this is so cool. This might be the most impressive action shot of the entire series. And if it's not a Spider-Man Mary Jane thing, I don't know what is. And I say that because Yuri Lowenthal, our voice of Benny, is also the voice of Spider-Man in the 2018 PlayStation exclusive.
Nice.
So again, is this an intentional thing, or did it just happen to?
It just happens.
I feel like that's an intentional thing, but and it looks amazing. I'm not gonna lie. That
as far as Hunter's fatherly role, he just saved his kid.
I think of all of the we made the superhero analogy before.
Yeah.
If this is not superheroism or superhero actions personified, I don't know what is. Great sequence though. Absolutely loved it. Okay, so on the lower bridge, the boys begin to advance on Mako from both sides. With the droid guards flanking him, he defiantly shouts, "No one's going to take what belongs to me." And he then orders the droids to take care of them all. The droids activate their stun batons, but before they can do anything, two very precise blaster bolts streak out, striking both of them in the head, and they fall over lifeless. Looking back at Wrecker and Tech, Mako sees, in fact, they don't miss. And now, with nothing between him and the boys, Mako chokes up on his cane, brandishing it like a club, and he spins his claw hand as he says, "I'll deal with you myself." But Mako is all blather as he swings his cane wildly. So wildly, in fact, that he overdoes it and literally spins himself off balance, falling over the railing without actually hitting anyone or anything. Fortunately, the cane catches the railing and prevents his fall. And then suddenly Benny is there and he's reaching out for Mako, shouting at him, "Grab my hand." And Mako does with his clawed prosthetic. He hooks it into Benny's hand and Benny grunts in pain as Mako shouts, "You never should have crossed me. Never should have crossed me, kid." And he flashes a wicked smile as he tries to pull Benny over the railing with him. But then Drake is there and Drake grabs hold of Benny and Mako loses his grip on both Benny's hand and the cane, and just like his droid guard, he falls into the molten lava. Benny grimaces and watches Mako fall out of sight, and you can tell that somewhere in there, he really did want to believe that Mako was a better man.
Yeah, but he wasn't just using them.
No, he really wanted to believe that. I think he did anyway.
Yeah. Well, his whole life has been this, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, then Tech and Wrecker step forward as Benny and Drake stand there with the other boys. Back in the hangar, the rotating platform with the Havoc Marauder is now swung open, and a Tech goes over the ship as they prepare to leave. Seeing Gonky on the hangar floor, Wrecker lets out a gratifying cackle as he picks up the droid in a giant bear hug. Ha ha! Hunter and Omega are just a few steps behind when Benny suddenly pulls up on a hover skiff loaded with containers, and he says, "Here's all your stuff." With his hands on his hips, Hunter cocks his head and asks, "All of it?" And Benny gives an emphatic, "Yeah." Then chuckling, he asks, "Don't you trust me?" And he takes a bite from a large piece of fruit. Hunter and Omega eye each other skeptically before Benny admits, "Okay, that's fair, but it's all there." Hunter then takes the skiff and he pushes it off towards the Havoc Marauder, leaving Benny and Omega to say their goodbyes.
Meluron.
She asks him, "What will you do now?" And he tells her that he supposes they'll just hang around and keep mining the Ipsium because that's all they know. Omega tells him it's a big galaxy and he can be whatever he wants to be and he doesn't have to stay there. But Benny tells her that it really isn't so bad. And now that Mako's gone, all the boys will be getting an equal share of the profits now. From off in the distance, we can hear Drake call out to Benny to tell him that it's chow time. And Benny lifts his hand and he nods in acknowledgement. Then turning back to Omega, he thanks her for showing him the truth, adding, if you ever need a thief, I owe you. Tossing the fruit up and then catching it again, Benny smiles at Omega and then he heads off. Omega stands there with her hand on her chin in thought. So Tech approaches and asks, what is it? I actually love the delivery here. I know we've talked a lot about Tech, especially the Tech-centric episodes and their development, but his choice of wording here, like he doesn't use the, what do you say, what's your issue, or what's, you know, he doesn't do the what's your malfunction, soldier. He stops for a second and then stutters for a second. What is it? Like he's really trying to emote.
Yeah, to connect with her.
That's a nice piece of development there.
Yeah.
While turning to face her brother, Omega says the Empire isn't the only threat in the galaxy. Now they've seen so many people just like Mako. And Tech answers that while that's unfortunately true, he also points out that there are many people like them in the galaxy as well. Foreshadowing?
Maybe.
I hope so. Well, the two of them look over to see Wrecker now holding his Tuca doll. And then Tech puts a hand on Omega's shoulder and he says, and that is something. Hank, you just said Melu run.
Yeah.
I counter that it is not a Melu run.
Ooh.
I don't know what it is. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but that is some mystery fruit. I wondered if it was maybe like,
I don't know. It looks like the pear a bit, like an odd shaped version of that
apple
forest pear. I don't know.
That is the pear from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
And the apple that Rey is eating in The Force Awakens is a real species of apple with some weird, the description says it's actually some particular species of broccoli that they've stuffed in the top to give it that little tree look on top. I don't know what this is. I don't think it's a Melu run, but I don't know what it is. It's definitely got a stem and it's definitely got leaves, but the Melu run, both in animation and in live action, are covered in spikes.
Yeah.
And this
is a lump with knobs.
The lump with it's corn.
It's got the juice.
The most beautiful thing. Now there's going to be a bunch of people out there that are going to listen to this or watch this and go, what the hell are they talking about?
These guys are on the edge.
It's corn. All right. Well, with everyone on board, the Havoc Marauders engines roar to life and the ship lifts off from the platform and flies out of the mining pit, headed for space. And at that point, we fade to black. And that is episode 10. So that being said, I want to keep the conversation rolling here. And I want to come back around to that. Are they working towards this future team? Like, is there going to be a time when I need to call in a bunch of favors and I'm going to call them all in at once?
Maybe.
So I put this slide together. I'm calling it Team Omega. And I put the question to you guys, who do we think, if that is in fact what they're building towards, who do we think could be on Team Omega? I hazard to say that after the events of this episode, especially with the IOU, Benny is for sure a strong contender. There's another reason why he's a strong contender, and not just because they gave him that line, I owe you. It's very subtle. This character has a last name.
Does he?
Benny Baru. He is fully named in the credits, although his last name is never spoken. Would you go through the effort to name this character completely if they were just a one-off, you're never going to see them again?
No.
So, Gunji is another obvious one. I threw Drake in there because if you're getting Benny,
you might get Drake.
You might get Drake.
The Rafa sisters even.
Well, and so you've got Trace and Rafa, the Martez sisters. Now they are that puts us one step away from Rex and whatever Rex is doing. I think that might actually be a bit of a stretch, but I've included them there because we only see them communicate with Rex by holo, which still leaves them far enough away that they could do something with her.
It's true. I would say Fee is a more likely candidate to be one of her. I know she's older, but like, you know, even the mentor leader of the cadre.
Oh, maybe.
I will have to say, like, you know, like, because Andy, you said it before, this is a kid's show. So what I really hope is that kids are watching it and not just 40, 50-year-old guys with beards
like us.
Because I feel like we're straying really, really close to just stamping Star Wars in a rock, and we're accepting everything they give us. I really like.
But I've said that right from the beginning. You could put Star Wars on a rock, and I'll look at it.
Yeah, but I mean, now that we're faced with it, I'm kind of like, oh, like I really hope, because I don't understand also the wisdom of putting this up parallel with the Mando, because I'll barely be able to pay attention once that starts.
It's going to be that I agree. That's going to be a tough. I don't want to say tough pill to swallow. I mean, I've always been a champion for more Star Wars is more Star Wars. Good, bad, ugly, or otherwise.
Unless this is like they did with, you know.
So I was a huge sort of proponent last season, and even, you know, in general, I'm like, even with Marvel products and stuff like that, I'm thinking about properties that I really like I hope Indiana Jones 5 has something to say.
Oh, sure.
I need there to be something for them to say, and I'm like not sure what they're trying to say here in terms of, you know what I mean? Like,
I agree with you on that.
The story that's worth telling is, to me, it's that clone stuff that
if anything,
all around there.
That's where Mission of the Week does not serve very well.
Yeah.
And it seems like, you know, have we pushed that too far? Or, oops, I did something on my computer there. You guys can't see it. Don't worry.
We can totally see you, though. You're fine.
Yeah, good. I don't know if it takes anything away from what's going on, but I really hope that kids are watching the show and enjoying it for what it is.
Yeah.
And that I'm not reading way too much into, like, putting too much on it, the show's shoulders.
Because
when we got that cloning facility, I was like, bonkers.
Well, I had prior to going live tonight, as we do, we gather every weekend and we kind of have our pre-show chit chat, and I had a chance to sort of show off my latest acquisition. I finally picked up this guy, as he's just come out here in Canada, the Grand Inquisitor. And that just kind of got me thinking again, as we talk about all of these shows sort of on a collision course with each other and how they recontextualize and they add more depth and breadth to the other series. You know, it wasn't lost on me that we've said openly that Omega may be on her way towards Force sensitivity, if not an outright Force user. Would it not be like super tragic and super unexpected if Omega turns to the dark side?
Yeah, it would be super tragic, but I can't see it happening on this show.
Maybe not.
But considering, you know,
she's unaltered, I really think
gonna outlive them, right?
That's true. Sorry, Hank.
I don't know if they're going to do that, because I really strongly feel that might be the arc that we get for Ezra Bridger's return in Ahsoka. Because nothing in Star Wars would be more heartbreaking than the return of Ezra and him have fallen to the dark side, to be the antagonist.
Right.
For that show. That would be just tragic. Beautiful writing.
Does that not skirt?
If I was writing it, I would do that.
That skirts that Knights of the Old Republic story arc where you are Revan.
Right. And could you come back from that?
You as the player have a choice. You can play
Ezra Bridger with a purple lightsaber. Come on. Yeah.
That in itself is an excellent idea.
Considering the amount of cloning and whatnot they dipped into in The Mandalorian, it would not shock me that they're dropping it side by side, because something's going to happen here that will, you know, take shape.
We've said it all along. There are no clones by the time we get to A New Hope.
Yeah.
No.
They got to go somewhere. Well, sorry, they're very limited. We know Rex makes it to Return of the Jedi. That is going to be an interesting story however that one's told. But en masse, the Fett clones, I should say, maybe that's the way we should say it. The Fett clones, they're gone. So something's got to happen. And man, we didn't get any of that. We really I shouldn't say we did talk about it on the show. When we reviewed the Book of Boba Fett, we were clamoring for like, that's his sister. They've got to meet.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Right.
Not yet.
No.
Not even a word of acknowledgement that he even knows that she exists. No. Which is hard to believe given her relationship or the relationship. There is an intermediary there that knows everybody, and it's Fennec Shand. Fennec Shand knows Boba. Fennec Shand knows Omega.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did Fennec Shand know Jango was cloned?
Does Fennec Shand know that Omega is an unaltered Jango clone?
I would say the answer to the first question, Andy, is yes. She knows. She's there for when Boba
so as well.
Out to Mando. Did she know before that? I don't know, but she's definitely in the scene where Boba lays it out to Din Djarin. This is my father's armor, and he pulls up the hologram.
Absolutely, she's right present there. For that. Right. Now that is,
but at the same time,
many years in the future.
Well, so far, like in this timeline, Fennec has only been like she's just a target. You know
the
they
reality.
Don't tell you like, and they didn't tell Din Djarin. You're going to get Grogu. They just said you're going to get a target.
A target.
You don't need to know nothing about it.
Well, now look at the relationship that Fennec Shand and Boba Fett now have, where they are more partners. Yeah. Imagine your partner saying, "Oh, by the way, there's another," and that's a total legacy thing. That's a Yoda moment right there. There is another Skywalker. Right?
If they should kill her. Oh, did I ever tell you about this kid I met once?
There's another. Have you heard the tale? The Book of Omega Fett. Like that's still. I mean, I know we really want this stuff, but I really want this stuff.
But maybe she's going to fully take up the armor and show up. I mean, she is part Mandalorian.
How interconnected are we going to be? Jon Favreau. It's been making the rounds this week. That ahead of the season 3 of The Mandalorian, season 4 is already written.
Already written. Going to tie right into the Ahsoka stuff. And on the flip side, though, did you see the interview with Liam Neeson?
I did. We talked. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last Tuesday
on Random.
About
watered down,
diluted,
and
diluted.
I can't
fault him for saying that.
I don't disagree either. Like at some point, like
myself as well.
The magic, like you know what I mean, like the reason we can tear this to pieces if we want to is because there's so much of it, and it's not active nostalgia. It's like it's going on right now. And that's why I strongly believe that if they're going to tell a story, it's got to be a story that matters, and not just
agreed
clone troopers running around shooting stuff. So I hope we're headed in the right direction here.
There was an underlying message in this episode.
Yeah, go for it.
Like when. Again, when Benny's like, "Oh, what do you give a crap about Gongi for? He's just a defective droid," and they're like, "Not to us."
Yeah,
and that borders on that whole droid rights, and
that also ties into the other line. They really treat you like you're one of them.
Yeah.
So there is that.
And to circle back one more time, you had said in that cover, the alternate cover to the thing where they showed all the Mandalorian helmets.
Oh yeah.
There were some unidentified
lady helmets. Yeah.
So maybe
she's sought out her Mandalorian roots.
Maybe.
Wouldn't that be something?
Because like she's gonna find if she doesn't already know the base of her genome, she's gonna find out.
I hope so.
Because like
I really do.
Once she finds that out, she'd be like, "Oh wait, that's where we came from? Maybe I should explore that history."
She doesn't have the connection to Jango like Boba did.
No.
Boba legitimately had the father-son relationship for presumably the first 10 years of his life.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's 10 years old when Jango's killed in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Ish. Omega doesn't have that. So,
but if
like a kid who's been adopted, would she be curious enough to seek out a potential sibling?
Maybe. Like if we get to that Mount Tantis episode at the end of Bad Batch.
Yeah.
And is it Nala Se that got spared?
I can't it's not Nala Se. It's the
other one.
It's another Lama Su is the former prime minister.
But suppose they get there and they just lay it on her like, "Oh yeah, you came from this line."
Yeah. Doug says she knows, as well as she knew about the chip.
Yeah,
the inhibitor chip. Is that what we're going on?
Yeah, but at the time it wasn't anything nefarious. It was just, hey, we got to put this in. From her perspective, right?
Yeah. Not that it was this insidious
plan to
thing
slay the Jedi.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. This whole, again, I go back to this. All these shows feel like there's a cohesive sort of, there's a trajectory that they all seem to be going in the same direction, even though we're at different points in the Star Wars timeline. I find it quite fascinating how and when they merge. I'm curious, with half a season of the Bad Batch left, how far forward are we going to get with this?
I don't think we have to get super far. We just have to get far enough that some event takes place that's going to affect what we're going to find out later.
Yeah. I mean, it could be it could be. It feels like we're paddling against the rapids here, though. I mean, I really want them.
Just give me another season of Andor where I can just like float along with that.
5 weeks left, because the last episode is a double.
Yep.
And I really hope that it's not all saved for just a finale.
No.
Well, yeah, there is that. What's next week? Next week is got another weird. Oh my gosh, I should have looked this up. Should have had this ahead of time. What is next week?
I will say this though: they're very lucky that the ship got stolen by who it did, because they definitely did not have the drive of the Jawas to strip that ship.
No,
they didn't.
It was so small. Like, we stole the ship and we get it back the next episode.
Yeah.
It's now like, what's the purpose of that?
I figured it is, again, kids show. You got to get your home back.
Well, we talked about this in the Marvel context about characters showing up for no other reason than just to be there for future projects. Is that what this episode did with Benny? It just set him up for a future appearance.
Yeah, could be.
Nothing's by
accident. And I really hope we don't start doing commercials for what's next.
Yeah, really.
Star Wars, because Marvel.
So next week's episode,
Marvel.
Next week's episode is titled Metamorphosis, and I mean that just the name Metamorphosis implies some change, some transformation, perhaps, of something. So that's going to be an interesting one to chew on. And we get the first episode of The Mandalorian. So
yeah,
my gosh, are you guys ready for a whole lot more Phantom Power come these next few weeks?
Sure.
I'm going to be frazzled every week.
We're going to be able to do 3 episodes a week and then the one that's 4. Like, I guess the live one is almost zero prep, but
that's true. So Tuesday nights are usually have been relatively
more relaxed,
much more relaxed. It's a little different this week. Like I said, if you haven't tuned in to our new show on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern, it's Random Fandom, or Tuesday Night Random Fandom, as we've been calling it. Where we talk about sort of the news, the entertainment news of the past week and the headlines that caught our attention.
And anything else that comes up.
Those headlines, they're your headlines. So if you guys have entertainment news, whether it's movies, TV, toys, celebrities, what have you, we want to hear from you. So you can always hit us up in the comments right here on YouTube and Facebook. You can call us at our custom WhatsApp link, which is in the description of all of our videos now. It's embedded on the YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page. This week, we'll be talking to Kehlani Hubbard, independent filmmaker, who's going to be talking about his new project called Sky Hoshi Anime Girl, where we will get to show the trailer. With permission to show the trailer, we're going to do that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that's what's happening on Tuesday. Keep your eyes peeled to our social channels so we can keep you up to date with how we're going to roll out the double episode next week. We're still not 100% locked in whether it's going to be a double Sunday or a Sunday Monday or how that's going to work. But we will have all the details for you on our social channels as soon as we've got that pinned down. Guys, is there anything you want to close on before we wrap it up for the night?
I think that covers it.
Yeah,
I think so as well.
Droids matter.
They do matter. I like this episode. Mission of the week is working for me. Maybe it's because of it's been sort of my affection for Star Trek, especially now that Star Trek is back. Although Picard is episodic. Yeah. Mission of the week, I'm okay with it. We do need something to get us back on track, though, with the larger picture. Metamorphosis sounds like it could be a big one, but you never know. We've misinterpreted titles before. We'll just have to wait and see.
We could be losing Sid.
Awesome.
That is unresolved, isn't it?
It is very big and unresolved.
She needs a slap in the face anyway, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. But we know she's going to lose when the Empire takes hold, right? So.
Yeah. Or, one of her rivals.
Yeah, anyway. True.
Guys, that's it. I hope you guys had a great time, as good a time as we had bringing it to you. Stay tuned, as there will be more. But for Fandom Power, everybody, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
I'm Hank's Tooth.
We'll catch you on the next one, guys. Bye for now.
See you guys.
Same batch time.
Same batch channel. Come on, let's work to the bone, bone, bone.